Hello everyone, and welcome to what will actually be the last chapter for the Sailor Moon Dragon Ball Z crossover. And that is specifically because the author didn't write anymore. So, there's nothing I can do going forward. So, as per last time, if you guys remember, I was reading the original of this particular story, and then I was also taking a little intermission and then coming back and presenting you with the Rida version that I did, just to kind of make it a little bit more cohesive. So, for this last chapter here, we will start right now with the author's notes. By Sailor Backstreet, says, as always, props to Mike. You're the best for editing this, and to Asuka. Without her making the indexes, there would be no more chapters. How do you guys like where this is going? Do you have any ideas as to what Vegeta might be up to or how Piccolo will handle him? Tell me! I need to know these things. And make sure you write me at my new email address, ladygwengr@aol.com. Thanks. Sorry it takes me so long to finish these, but I don't get a lot of time to write, and then I was in a writer's block for a while. And by the time I eventually finished it, I sent it to my editor, who also doesn't have a lot of spare time. So you just gotta bear with me, and I hope the chapters are worth your waiting. Please write me. I love mail. Peace, love, and DBZ. Chapter 6. Vegeta looked up at the stone ceiling. He was in the same cave again, even though he knew he should move. Kakarot could find him here, but he didn't care. At the moment, the Saiyan Prince was lying on the floor, just thinking.
Damn her boyfriend anyway, he exhaled. How in the hell did he get so powerful? And in just one day? It's impossible. He's not a Saiyan. Kakarot did something to him. No one can get that strong that fast.
Vegeta's eyes narrowed and his lips thinned in grim determination.
I have to get stronger. I have to find out Kakarot's secret.
He got to his feet. Vegeta walked over to his traveling pod and typed something into the keypad. Instantly, lights began to blink, and there was a slight humming noise.
Computer,
he called.
Yes, Prince.
The same digitized female voice replied.
Were you able to track the location of Kakarot in the past 24 hours?
Vegeta wanted to know.
Of course, Prince.
On the screen, an image popped up of a map.
Son Goku took Dari and Chiba to this place.
Vegeta squinted at the screen.
Well, where is that? How the hell am I supposed to know what this is supposed to be?
This is the entrance to the Room of Spirit and Time, located on Kame's Lookout, back on Son Goku's home planet.
As computer spoke, data sped across the display.
A year's time passes here within a day's time in our world. The gravity is 250 times that of normal.
So that's how they did it,
Vegeta mused. He grinned.
Let's go.
Go, Prince.
Yes! Put in the coordinates for this room of Kakarot's. That's where we're headed.
Of course.
Vegeta hopped into the capsule, and the door closed. He would go to this special room and train for 2 years, or really only 2 days. Then he would return, and then he would be ready to battle Kakarot and all the others. Although he had an idea on how to get Sailor Moon back and achieve immortality, escaped him for the moment. He knew he would come up with something eventually. All that mattered now was getting stronger. King Kai was sitting at his table, carefully cutting his steak. He had decided to eat al fresco that evening, just for something different. With Goku gone, nothing much happened day in and day out. It was dinner time, and he had already fed Bubbles, his monkey, and Gregory, his giant bee-looking pet. All of a sudden, a wind stirred up, and King Kai looked up from his plate. Right in front of his car, a gathering of pink shimmers clustered together into a blob that resembled a person. And then the sparkles turned into an actual girl, with what had to be the strangest hair he had ever seen. But before he could see anything else of her features, the girl fell flat on her face. King Kai continued to eat for a moment, and then when she didn't get up, he sighed and waddled over to where she was lying on the grass.
"Miss, can I help you?"
he asked. Serena managed to lift herself a few inches off the ground to say,
"Just give me 1 second. I need to stand up,"
she explained, staggering to her hands and knees. King Kai lifted an eyebrow. Surely a mere girl couldn't get to her feet under this gravity. But get to her feet she did. After several tries and failing, Serena was able to stand on her own, still shaking slightly at the intense pressure. Seeing a short, fat man wearing a black robe over a red shirt, a black cap, 2 long antennae, and round black sunglasses, Serena chuckled tremendously.
"Excuse me," she said, after composing her balance again. "You wouldn't happen to know where King Kai is, would you?"
King Kai stiffened in indignity, bringing himself up to his full height of almost 4 feet.
"Yes, I happen to know where he is. He's standing right in front of you. Can I help you?"
Serena looked puzzled for a moment, then recovered.
"Oh, hello! I've come here to train with you, if you'll accept me as your trainee."
King Kai looked the girl over.
"Train? Are you sure you're not just a messenger from King Yama's?" "No!" she replied, aggravated. "I'm here to train with you. Vegeta's attacked my planet and Goku is there, but—" "Goku? As in Son Goku? You know him?"
King Kai wanted to know.
"Yes,"
Serena answered, glad to be on familiar ground with him.
"Ah, well, if you do want to train with me,"
King Kai began.
"Oh, I do,"
Serena interrupted eagerly.
"Don't interrupt me again,"
King Kai gently rebuked. After clearing his throat, he continued.
"The first thing you have to do is make me laugh, or I won't train you. Think of it as your initiation of sorts."
He put his hands at the small of his back.
"Make you laugh?"
Serena repeated, dumbfounded. How could she make him laugh? Everyone laughed at her when she klutzed out, but she wasn't good at jokes or anything like that.
"Well, I haven't got all day. My dinner's getting cold,"
King Kai insisted.
Hey! Everyone always makes fun of my hair by calling me Meatball Head,"
Serena told him hopefully. King Kai stared at her for what seemed like eternity, not cracking a smile. Just when Serena was going to sigh and try again, King Kai began to laugh hysterically.
"Meatball Head! That's hilarious!"
Serena grinned. She did it!
"Very well. I'm going to go eat. Your first task in my training is to catch Bubbles." "Catch Bubbles? But
They just pop when you touch them, Serena complained. King Kai chuckled.
Not those kinds of bubbles.
Drawing in breath, he called,
Bubbles?
Instantly, a short monkey scrambled over, stopping between the two of them. Catch him? Serena asked, raising her hand to point at the animal. But then she found she couldn't. She tried again, gritting her teeth and putting all her effort into it. She managed to raise her hand a quarter of how high she wanted it to.
Ugh. The gravity here is 10 times that of Earth. I'm amazed you've been able to stand all this time. Bubbles here is a lot quicker than you imagine. But first, you need to get into some decent clothes. You're not training in that getup,
King Kai explained, shaking his head at her scout attire as he turned away. I am Sailor Moon, and I stand for love and justice, Serena protested. But I can't move. Help! King Kai saw she was stuck standing. He could also see how much effort she was using in straining to step after him and failing.
Are you sure you want to train here with me, Miss Moon?
Yes, I do. I have to, but this gravity is killing me, Serena exclaimed. Can't you turn it off? King Kai laughed again.
Try walking. After you can manage to get around a bit, however slowly, then we can do something about those ridiculous clothes.
King Kai shook his head in amazement and returned to his dinner table. To his surprise, he heard her shout after him. Well, your clothes aren't any less ridiculous. Ignoring her remark, and still chuckling over his new trainee, he settled back in his chair to finish his meal. Things would become very interesting around here with this Sailor Moon here. Very interesting indeed. Amy had figured out that the best place for them to revive the eternal dragon was in some mountains a few miles west of Tokyo, where none of the Tokyo citizens would see what they were doing. So the group headed out in that direction, with Amy leading them. Just a bit further, Amy encouraged when the scouts would have dropped from the trek. Goku, Piccolo, and Gohan were all walking as well, despite their ability to fly. They realized it would be better to keep on their feet and close to the girls should Vegeta decide to spring an attack. When they finally reached the valley Amy was aiming for, Ray sighed with relief. Geez, I thought we'd never get here. Come off it, Ray. It wasn't that bad, and you need the exercise, Mina chided gently. I'm not the one whose scout uniform is looking a little snug lately, Ray replied. Mina turned beet red, while Goku and Piccolo exchanged glances, then said, Okay. Gohan just kept his eyes on the ground, still guilt-ridden over Serena's sacrifice. All this while, Darien had riveted his gaze straight ahead, anxious to get the wish over with, so they could start their waiting for another year to go by for him to have his Serena back. Even now he missed her, but kept silent, privately unnerving everyone but Goku. But none of them said anything about it. Mina, Ray, and now Lita were into a shouting match, tossing insults back and forth, while Goku, Piccolo, and Darien just stared down at the valley, with the chaos going on unnoticed behind the three. Gohan joined Piccolo's side, but still said nothing. Guys, stop it! We'll never help Serena this way, Amy exclaimed, finally having her fill of the girls' bickering. We're nearly 18 years old. We're not little girls anymore like we used to be. We've got to stop these silly fights. Ray started it. Mina started it. Mina and Ray accused at the same time. Lita sighed in exasperation. Usually, she tried to keep the peace by not getting involved and sinking to their level of immaturity, but sometimes she couldn't help herself. Fighting was in her blood. It always had been, and it always would be. Listen, come on, enough! Let's get the eternal dragon before sunset, so we can get back home before dark, Lita finally suggested. Her statement was met with sullen nods and mumbled apologies from the princesses of Mars and Venus, and they all joined the brooding guys. Where should we do this? Amy broke the silence after a few moments, facing Goku, since he was the only one who really knew about the dragon. Goku returned from his reverie. He had been thinking of Chi-Chi. She was a little crazy, but he knew he had added to her being that way by just taking off on fighting missions like he was now. He realized she was probably worried sick over him, and in addition to that, he had taken her Gohan, which was practically forbidden in the book of Chi-Chi. He hadn't meant to. He had planned on leaving his son behind so she wouldn't become completely hysterical. Oops, Goku thought, but she'll get over it. She always does. Goku, Lita demanded, when he still was off in La La Land. Oh, sorry, girls. I was just thinking of Chi-Chi, my wife, Goku explained. Darien knew all about it, but the scouts didn't. When Goku saw their looks of questions, he shook his head. Later, when we have more time. Goku. Piccolo's deep voice brought him back around to face the valley. Something in it made Goku get that feeling he always did when something was wrong, and he knew Gohan would be in danger. Not quite panic, not quite exhilaration, just a rush of adrenaline. What? He scanned the valley for anything that would provoke Piccolo enough to get him to willingly talk to Goku, one of his arch rivals. There, behind that tree, I sense a great power, Piccolo explained. Goku realized he had felt it too, but had been too wrapped up in his thoughts to actually notice it. Oh man, I feel it too. It can't be Vegeta though, can it? I'm not sure, but whoever it isn't friendly. For in that moment, lightning-like energy crackled around the figure crouched beside the lone giant tree, and then an energy blast was shot in their direction, and all the Dragon Ball expedition group could see was blinding white light. And now we are going to go to intermission, guys. Oh boy, the 90s. Telling women that their outfits are silly get-ups and fat-shaming each other. Jesus Christ. What a time. Well, rest assured that I cut that stuff out of my rewrite. But anyway, guys, we're going to go to intermission, and I will see you in about 5 minutes or so.
I am Sailor Moon, the champion of justice. And I say on behalf of the moon, I shall right wrongs and triumph over evil, and that means you.
Chapter 6. Vegeta looked up at the stone ceiling, lost in thought. He was in the cave again, even though he knew he should move on. Kakarot could find him here, but he didn't care.
Damn her boyfriend anyway, he griped. How the hell did he get so powerful? And in just one day! He's not a Saiyan. Kakarot must have done something to him. No one can get that strong that fast.
Vegeta's eyes narrowed as he got to his feet, his lips twisting down in grim determination.
I have to find out Kakarot's secret.
He walked over to his traveling pod and began to type something into the keypad. Instantly, lights began to blink, and a slight humming noise could be heard.
Computer,
he called.
Yes, Prince,
The digitized voice replied.
I want a read on Kakarot and where he went in the past 24 hours.
Of course, Prince.
The humming sound started up again, and in a few moments, an image popped up on the small screen. A map. Vegeta squinted at the screen.
What is that?
He demanded.
This is the entrance to the Room of Spirit and Time, located on Kame's lookout, back on Son Goku's home planet.
As Computer spoke, data sped across the display, which Vegeta began to read.
So, that's how they did it,
he mused, then grinned.
Let's go.
Go, Prince?
Yes. Put in the coordinates for this room of Kakarot's. That's where we're headed.
Of course.
Vegeta hopped into the capsule, and the door closed. He would go to this special room and train for 2 years. After that, he would return and would be ready to battle Kakarot and all the others. The issue of the Dragon Balls and how to get Super Sailor Moon back escaped him for the moment, but he was certain that he would come up with something eventually. All that mattered now was getting stronger. "What do you mean Sailor Moon is dead?" Sailor Mars asked, looking sharply at the Soldier of Time, who was now standing with Kirime's present clutched tightly in her fist. "Just what I said," Sailor Pluto returned, her voice as serious as the grave. "She is dead." "How can you be so sure?" Jupiter put in, just as unwilling to believe what her eyes clearly saw. Pluto looked at the Princess of Thunder, and the other woman did her best not to flinch. The look in the older scout's eyes said everything, but Pluto continued anyway, her words clear as water. "I can feel it," she said severely. "Something in the past has shifted, and I suspect that this has something to do with it." And she held up Kirime's present for all to see. "What is that?" Uranus asked, eyeing the bracelet with suspicion. "I can't rightly say," Pluto replied truthfully, "but there was a vision some months ago. At the time I had dismissed it as nothing more than a fancy, but now I fear that it was more than just an idle dream." "And you didn't think to warn anyone?" Jupiter demanded. Pluto sighed. "Sometimes it's hard to tell what is to come and what isn't. The future is malleable that way. Prediction nearly impossible if larger elements are beyond my reach to see." Sailor Jupiter opened her mouth to protest more, but Venus laid a hand on her shoulder, and she subsided. "What do we do, Pluto?" asked the Princess of Love. "How do we find out what caused this?" In answer, Sailor Pluto looked at the chrysalis, where Neo Queen Serenity lay in stasis. But it was King Endymion who answered. "One of us must go back through time to find that out." They all stared at him. He was standing in front of the structure, one gloved hand resting against it, a memory in his eyes. Those standing there didn't need to be told which one. This had happened before, after all, back when the Negamoon had attacked. The Silver Imperium crystal had reacted much the same way, only this time it was different. This time, Sailor Moon was dead, and could be forever. The disappearance of Princess Rini proved it.
King Endymion, Neptune said quietly, whatever you command we will carry out without hesitation.
Yes, said Sailor Saturn, but which one of us should it be?
The scouts looked back at one another, each wanting to go, but not daring to be the first one to speak. In the end, it was Sailor Uranus who broke the silence. "I'll go," she said, and went to one knee before the king. "With your permission, your majesty, please allow me this chance to discover what has happened to our queen, and why." King Endymion looked down at the Princess of Wind, and was just about to give his assent, when Pluto also went down on one knee before him.
I humbly ask to be allowed to accompany Uranus on this mission, sire, she said. After all, it was because of my silence when my vision appeared that caused this to happen.
King Endymion nodded. "Very well," he said. "You may both go."
"Thank you, your majesty,"
intoned the two scouts before they rose to their feet once more.
"In the meantime," Sailor Mercury interjected, "might I be allowed to look at that bracelet, Susan? Perhaps if I'm allowed to analyze it, I might be able to discover the source of its involvement in this incident."
Wordlessly, Pluto handed the bracelet over to Mercury, who took it then, looked over at the guest, who was still staring at the image of the queen in her crystal prison. The bracelet pulsed once in Mercury's hand, and the shock of it nearly made her drop it. "What the hell?" she thought, startled, and looked down at the 7 small balls. But there was nothing there to indicate that anything had happened. Her brow furrowing, Mercury closed her hand over the jewelry and looked back up as Luna P suddenly floated into the room and came to a halt in front of Sailor Pluto like a well-trained dog. King Endymion had walked away from the crystal structure now and whispered something low into Sailor Pluto's ear. The Princess of Time nodded, and a few seconds later, both she, Uranus, and Luna P vanished, back into the past and into unknown dangers. King Kai was sitting at his table, carefully cutting his steak and feeling slightly restless. He had decided to eat al fresco that evening, just for a change of scenery. With Goku gone, nothing much happened day in and day out, and the boredom was beginning to settle in once more, as it usually did when there was no one to train. All of a sudden, the wind stirred, and he looked up from his plate, as a gathering of pink shimmers clustered together into a shape that resembled 2 people. As he watched, the sparkles faded, and he saw Tabai appear first, followed by a girl with the strangest hair he'd ever seen. But before he could see anything else of her features, she fell to her knees with a small, unladylike squeak. King Kai set his fork down and looked up at the golden star of Venus with a raised eyebrow.
"Tabai, is there something I can help you with?" he asked. "It's rather late, and you know how I hate to be interrupted during meal times."
In answer, Tabai heaved an irritated sigh.
"With all due respect, Your Eminence," they began, "I can appreciate your dedication to your digestion. However, You seem to have forgotten that you were meant to travel to the Jade Palace earlier this evening in order to escort the Moon Princess back to your home."
King Kai had the good sense to look embarrassed.
Ah,
He said, and cleared his throat, looking down at Serena as he did so, who had somehow managed to lift herself a few inches off the ground.
I thought there was something I was meant to be doing today. Forgive me, Tabai.
"It's all right," Tabai said, looking equally relieved and exasperated all at once. "King Yama misplaced the summons at any rate, so it's no wonder you never showed."
It's just as well, King Kai replied. Bubbles would probably have eaten it if he had sent it anyway.
"Excuse me?" said Serena as she staggered to her feet, still shaking slightly at the intense gravity, but standing nonetheless. "But what is wrong with this place? Why do I feel so heavy?"
The gravity here is 10 times that of Earth, King Kai explained. Truthfully, I'm amazed you are able to stand at all.
"Gee, thanks," Serena said, as she was finally able to compose her balance once more. King Kai could see how much effort she was using in order to remain upright, and felt a sense of pride, even though he had just met her. But standing was one thing. Walking freely on his planet was quite another, and a much more difficult feat. He stiffened suddenly and brought himself up to his full height of almost 4 feet.
Princess Serenity, he began severely, I feel that it is my duty to tell you that I have been keeping a close eye on you for the past few days, and can appreciate how hard it has been for you, what with Vegeta attacking your planet, and your mother entrusting the Dragon Balls to your care, without any prior knowledge on your part. Of course, I am honored that Queen Serenity has seen fit to send you to me so that I may guide you in the ways of royalty. However, you must be tested first before we can continue.
"Tested?" Serena asked, feeling more than a little unsettled by this blunt way of speaking. King Kai nodded.
Think of it as an initiation of sorts.
"What do you want me to do?" King Kai looked at her for a long moment.
I insist that you try walking on my planet, he said. It can be as slow as you like, but you must do it before we are able to proceed.
In response, Serena just stared at the fat man with his 2 long antennae and round black sunglasses. "But I can't even move," she protested. "How am I supposed to walk in this gravity? Surely there's a way to turn it off?"
I'm afraid not, King Kai replied, still looking severe. This is very important, my dear princess. Consider it your first taste of sovereignty, the courage to put one foot in front of the other, even under the most strenuous of circumstances.
Feeling that this was an impossible ask, Serena turned to Tabai, who gave an encouraging little nod. Then, taking a deep breath, she gritted her teeth and put all her effort into raising one foot and putting it solidly in front of the other. She managed to raise it a quarter of how high she actually wanted it to, and when she put it down, she heard the loud clack of her heel as it connected with the planet's surface. She grinned. She had done it! There was a stunned silence, and then the corner of King Kai's mouth quirked into a pleased smile.
Very good, he said. Now, a few more of those, and after you have grown accustomed to my home, then the real work can begin.
Super Sailor Mercury had figured out that the best place for them to revive the Eternal Dragon was in the mountains a few miles west of Tokyo. It was an ideal place, as none of the citizens would be able to see what they were doing up here. So the group headed out in that direction, with Amy leading them.
Just a bit further,
she encouraged, when hours had gone by, and Mars asked her how much longer the trek was going to be. Behind her, Endymion's gaze was riveted straight ahead, anxious to get the wish over with, so that the process of waiting for Serena to return could begin in earnest. He missed her terribly, but kept silent on the matter, privately unnerving everyone but Goku, but none of them would say anything about it. Meanwhile, Goku, Piccolo, and Gohan were walking as well. Despite their ability to fly, they realized it would be better to keep on their feet and close to the girls should Vegeta decide to spring an attack. When they finally reached the valley Mercury was aiming for, Super Sailor Venus sighed in relief.
I thought we'd never get here,
she said. They all stared down at the valley, saying nothing for several moments, until Jupiter broke the silence.
Come on, she said. Let's summon this eternal dragon before the sun sets, and we can get back home before dark.
Her statement was met with somber nods.
Where should we do this?
Mars asked, and looked at Goku, since he was the only one who really knew anything about the dragon. Goku blinked at the Princess of Fire. Truthfully, he'd been lost in thought the whole trip up the mountain, and hadn't heard a word of what she'd said. Since Serena had been killed, he had been thinking of Chi-Chi. She was always frantic when it came to things like this, but he knew that he had added to her being that way. He was always leaving without telling her, and usually it was to fight something big and bad, like he was now. He had realized in that moment she was probably worried sick over him, and not only that, he had taken Gohan along with him, which was practically forbidden in the book of Chi-Chi. He hadn't meant to. Actually, he had planned on leaving his son behind so she wouldn't become completely hysterical. But there was nothing he could do about it now.
Goku?
Mars prodded gently, and he snapped out of his reverie. "Oh, sorry," he said. "I was just thinking about my wife."
You have a wife?
Venus asked, as this was new information to her as well as the rest of the scouts. Goku couldn't help but to smile at her question, but shook his head. "Later," he said, "when we have more time." "Goku," Piccolo said suddenly, and something in the Namek's deep voice made him get that feeling he always got when something was wrong. Not quite panic, not quite exhilaration, just a rush of pure adrenaline. He scanned the valley for anything that would provoke Piccolo enough to startle him. "There, behind that tree, I sense a great power," he explained, and pointed. Goku realized he had felt it too, but had been too wrapped up in his own thoughts to actually notice. "Is it Vegeta?" Endymion asked, sounding almost hopeful. "I'm not sure," Goku replied, "but whoever it is, we need to be on our guard." No sooner had Goku spoken than lightning-like energy crackled just behind the tree, and all the group could see was blinding white light for several seconds. After it subsided, they all opened their eyes, and Jupiter saw that Piccolo had stepped forward, his fingers crackling with an electrical charge that made the hair on the back of her neck stand. She looked to where he was advancing, and had just enough time to notice two familiar figures standing beside the tree, weapons raised. The flash of light glinted off the garnet orb, and the space sword whipped out with the speed of a bullet train, aiming right for the charging Namek. "Piccolo, wait!" Super Sailor Jupiter shouted. "Don't hurt them! They're one of us! Sailor Pluto! Sailor Uranus! What are you two doing here?" And that's the end, guys. Thank you so much for joining me for this. Like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel. If you're new here, hello. This is going to be normal for me continuing forward reading Sailor Moon fanfiction. Although I plan to actually start reading fics that have an ending instead of just have a whole thing and then stopping. So, yeah, that is the plan. Anyway, guys, thank you so much again. And if you want to support me monetarily, I have a Ko-fi and a Patreon. Both are linked here in my description box. Want to give a thank you to my Patreons that I have here already. Mr. Chief, Vesper Lark, Diva A, Mike, Brendan, Nako, Oleg Pendragon, Bro WTF. Thank you guys so much for being over on my free tier for Patreon. I appreciate so much. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Good night.